to talk to you about the importance of voting and how it is important to take advantage of that and your freedom to vote. I want to start by sharing a quote by Lyndon B. Johnson, our 36th president. "The vote is the most powerful instrument ever devised by man for breaking down injustice and destroying the terrible walls which imprison men because they are different from other men." Now I'd also like to share with you 4 amendments. The 14th Amendment: all persons born within the U.S. are citizens and guaranteed rights and privileges. And the 15th Amendment: no citizen denied the right to vote based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude. The 19th Amendment: no citizen shall be abridged the right to vote based on sex. So the 14th Amendment was enacted in 1868, the 15th in 1870, and the 19th in 1920. Up to this point, we all had rights to vote. That's what they're saying. But did we really? It wasn't until almost 100 years later, to the voting rights of 1965, before they were really actually put into place, where we weren't discriminated against in voting. So, just a tad bit of information. Between 1890 and 1910, 10 of the 11 Confederate states passed new constitutions and amendments that disenfranchised most blacks and tens of thousands of poor whites with poll taxes and literacy tests and competency tests. So this pretty much drove the vote down completely in those areas. So the Voting Rights Act of 1965 is considered the most effective piece of civil rights legislation ever enacted in the country, and it prohibits against the discrimination of the vote. So the 4th Amendment I wanted to talk about was the 26th Amendment, stating all persons 18 years of older shall not be abridged of their right to vote. So now I want to share with you 5 reasons why you should vote. Number 1, you've been given the right to vote and the freedom to vote, just as those 4 amendments have stated. Also, in many countries, there are still people who cannot vote, who don't have a say in how things are run. You do, so embrace it, use it, and make it count. So number 2, your vote does count. Many elections are extremely close, and it doesn't mean that if you voted and it doesn't go your way, that your voice hasn't been heard. It's been heard, it's been counted. So between 1900 and 1999, 5 of the 25 presidential elections were decided by fewer than 130 electoral votes. The closest election in the 20th century was that of John F. Kennedy and Nixon in 1960, where JFK had 303 electoral to 219, Nixon 219, but the popular vote was almost tied at 49.7 to 49.5. So that's very, very close. Even Obama and Romney, the popular vote was 50.4 to Romney's 48.1. So these are tight races. And the popular vote means that your voice is being heard, it's being recorded. Popular vote is made by qualified voters. That's you and I. So number 3, your future could count on it. Economic policies do affect your future. Social Security. How many in here, by show of hands, have a job, have had Social Security taxes taken out? Okay, will you ever see those when it's time to retire? You can't guarantee that unless you have a representative in there voting for you or voicing their opinion saying, hey, they've paid these, they're due those. What about your social agenda? What about gay rights? Your capital punishment, maybe? Separation of church and state, religious freedoms? What is your social agenda? Have you voted in representatives that have the same social agenda as you? In order to have your social agenda known, you have to vote those people in that have that same agenda as you. So number 5, many have died giving you these rights. As stated in an article in the History Place, civil rights leader Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and over 500 supporters had planned to march from Selma to Montgomery to register African Americans to vote. The police violence that erupted resulted in the death of a King supporter, a white Unitarian Universalist minister from Boston named James J. Reed. I'd like to share with you a quote by Lyndon B. Johnson again. At times, history and fate meet at a single time and a single place to shape a turning point in man's unending search for freedom. So it was at Lexington and Concord, so it was a century ago at Appomattox, so it was last week in Selma, Alabama. There, long-suffering men and women peacefully protested the denial of the rights as Americans. Many of them were brutally assaulted. One good man, a man of God, was killed. This was in his We Shall Overcome speech. So in conclusion, I'd like to give you information on what is required of you to vote. By a show of hands, how many in here are 18 years or older? That's everybody. How many here are U.S. citizens? Is that you? Okay. How many of you have a Texas driver's license issued by DPS with a photo ID? Do you have a personal identification card? Okay. Everybody who's in here is required, or has the requirements to vote. So there's absolutely no reason for anybody not to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Delisa?
What would you say to those people who say that it really doesn't matter what we as individual citizens, how we vote, it all depends on the Electoral College?
It's not, I don't think that that's actually the case. Although the Electoral College has a lot to do with it, as I said, the popular vote is being recorded. It is being noted. So even though that has a lot to do with it, your voice is still being heard, and your representatives hopefully are listening to what you want. Anyone else?
Why did you choose this topic?
Because I think it's very important to practice your rights and your freedoms. I'm much older than you guys. I've been voting for a long time, and I've seen over the years how things have gone, and I think it's really important to vote.
How old were you when you first voted?
I wasn't 18. I was probably 22 before I first when I voted. I had children at that time, so it became more important. Anyone else?
Thank you so much. Nancy, can you do me a favor and please open up the door for Andrew Schill? Moving on to Amanda. Is Amanda outside? No. Okay, moving from Amanda to Tyler. And Tyler, you don't want to use you can use that for your notes, but you don't want to